Awesome. The synopsis of our panel today is the impact of technology as it's seen in all sectors across the globe and the creative content and entertainment industry everywhere. Everybody knows about technology and everybody right now is using it. So the way we produce content, the content we consume, everything these days depends on technology. What we're going to discuss today is whether how we deliver this content is right or wrong. How does it benefit our jobs and acts and everything that we do around us? How do we use all this to tell the African story? Please give a round of applause for the panel that's going to be speaking about this. I think we're ready to start. Are we ready? Okay. So my first question will go to all the panelists. It's a very understandable question and very broad and wide. Technology advancements come with disruptions and emergence of new markets and products. Please share with us how technological advancements have affected your individual acts. Tulanana.
Thank you so much for that question. I think in my background, basically we've been working as OnaStories around the future of storytelling, where is it going, and as you said, the emergence of new platforms, and one of the biggest platforms that's changing the shape of how we're creating content is the mobile phone. As you can, for many of us, we no longer, whenever we're buying a phone, we're no longer asking it if it can call or if it can text. We go straight to the camera, right? Recording ourselves, creating. So all of us have become content makers. And so what does that mean? It means as if you're already a content maker, how are you cutting through the noise? Because everybody else, including your audience, is a content maker. And with us, and what we've realized is that there are certain key tools, key strategies, and I'm sure also, like Osse, you may know how to make your content quote-unquote viral, but also not necessarily viral, because I think viral has a very short time limit. You know, things go and then zinasaulika, you know. Whereas we're really geared towards how do we make our content shareable. You can have your views, you know, with your audience that already follow you, but how do you then make that audience or share that content further on to others and others and others and others? So the way we're consuming content right now, you know, even as content creators, we're realizing that even though if the screen was as wide as this one, 16 by 9, we're going to the vertical format. We're using a lot of texts imposing text onto our videos or photographs. We're trying to grab people's attention. And as a content maker as well, what you're realizing is that consistency is also key. Putting one video up, or whether it's a company or brand, a week, doesn't cut it anymore. You want to stay relevant all the time. So pushing yourself to be as consistent as possible is something that, as content makers, it's reshaping the way we would make content if we were doing it for TV or radio. No longer people tuning into their favorite show at 4 p.m. exactly, you know. It's it's you're gearing for that person, for your audience at peak times when you know that they would be online, and those through technology need analytics for you to be able to subscribe to that. So those are the kind of things that we're realizing, and we're trying to implement as much as we can with partners and stakeholders that we work with as OnaStories.
Thank you, Tulanana. Idris Sultan.
Hi, how are you guys? Are you good? So it's a very, I would say, straightforward question according to the type of the world we live in right now. And just to see it clearly, we have so many people rising very cheaply nowadays, and that's because of technology. It's very much given to us It's given very freely. It's cheap for everybody to be able to afford. As much as you have your internet, then you can definitely use what you have as a device. The technology has already given you every single thing that you need. If you need to look like Obama right now, you can just do a face swap on your Snapchat, and you can look like him, and then you can talk like somebody completely different and messed up in the head. And that's the whole thing and the aspect of technology nowadays. So it's actually raised a few more talents which were never there before, in a good side and the bad side. The only bad side is that we cannot differentiate between famous and infamous, but on my aspect, because now that's the question, before I proceed way too far from the question. On my career, how has it really changed? My career is totally based and completely cord around technology itself. And that's where I would say about 70% of the people have known me from. The whole technology, your phones, where you see me, you're in the traffic, you can just look at your Instagram, your Twitter, your YouTube, that's where you see my content. So these are the places where I make my money. These are the places where people see me, where I get to have all this money made from you looking at me and having a laugh, and you would say, Idris, thank you for making me laugh for free. No, you're not laughing for free. I am really getting paid for that. So that's how technology has changed a lot of things, and that's within my career, just as me and other people who are creating content to make money outside. Before we proceed.
Thank you, Idris. Osse Greca Sinare.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the honor of having me here on this panel. Thank you. In terms of my career, it's been shaped through technology. I think ultimately, as a photographer, I'm here as a photographer, but I did do a degree in business computing, so my knowledge from photography solely came from learning it on YouTube and different platforms online. Without that access, I don't think I would have been in this position here today. So technology has definitely shaped how information is shared. I think one way it's shaped that is access to knowledge, and a lot of us learn for free, for example, on platforms such as YouTube, and also from people who share online. Another aspect that it's changed right now is just kind of like breaking the chain of hierarchy. Mm-hmm. So as a photographer or a creative, I don't have to go to a particular pathway to get my name out there. If I create a small, for example, Instagram account, I can share my work to the community and they can know what I'm doing. I can start creating films and share them on YouTube. So it's kind of break the chain. I don't need to go through certain structures that might hinder access to the audience. You can literally build your audience on your own. Another aspect is just allowing us to do things like crowdfunding. So for example, recently a friend of mine had his camera lost, and it was a great access to acquiring funds by reaching out to a group of people from different parts of the world, and all of them were able to send in money, which is something that you would have not been able to do before. You'd have just had to speak to the community around you. So it's definitely shaping how we are able to interact with each other. I think here in Tanzania, it's allowing us to reach different people from different parts of Tanzania, which allows us to kind of like build a bigger community, and is helping us shape the industry at this point in time where there isn't really an industry in my field per se. So those are kind of the things which are shaping kind of the industry at the moment. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. We go to the second question, which is, what are some of the positives that technology have caused to your individual acts, and how has it impacted you as a brand? For example, Idris, after winning Big Brother Africa, it was on TV, which is traditional media. How?
Traditional media?
Yes.
Okay.
Traditional media. How has technology benefited you as a brand now in helping you grow?
That's a very good question with a very sad beginning. But I would say that's as much as I'm not the first Big Brother winner in Tanzania. I'm definitely the second. The first one was Richard, and the first most famous one was Mwisho. But I am very advantageous because I'm the child of the new internet, the new technology. I came in the instant where people had their phones, and that's where you could see everything. You were voting through your phones. Most of the people had their phones, but back in the days when I would say Mwisho was there, it's when you would have to ask your mother for her phone to even play a game. You would even have to ask for somebody else's phone to even do something. You have to say bye to your house, to go 3 houses to the site to watch TV, and they would definitely tell you have to take a shower before you come into this house. So that's back in the days, but by the time that I got into, let's say, the spotlight, the whole internet thing was beginning to rise pretty fast. And that's a very big advantage for me, and I would say it kick-started my career pretty well. So as much as other people could have done much, but then I was raised with the internet. I was raised with these platforms, social media and all that and whatnot. But one of the things which I would say was very personal to me, which quite made me the person I am, is how I considered Big Brother to be. I considered it to be a platform for me to actually be just known, and then after that I would do most of the things which I could do before on the other places, because that's where you can definitely make money, because you make money once and then it's definitely going away. You know, Africans, you rarely see Africans adopting children. It's because we as Africans, we take care of too many children which are not ours. And you have your auntie's child, you have your father's child, everybody has their children they bring to you because you're the one who has money. So with me, you have to constantly make money and not just consider that one. So I consider this as a platform. And when I met social media, that's when I started making more money than I had before. So I think I am pretty much the 4th industrial revolution. Yes. In a nutshell, yeah.
Tulanana? Yes, definitely. I said, what are some of the positives that technology have caused to your individual act, and how has it impacted you as a brand?
I can't speak really as a brand, because the way we do business is kind of different from my colleagues here who have launched themselves on their individual names. And so even as I was here invited, I was like, okay, so what will I say compared to, but I mean, for myself, or for the work that I've done, is that we're looking at the future of storytelling with technology. So what are these emerging technologies that are coming, and how are we as Africans leveraging ourselves to tell the stories on those platforms? And so, so imagine it if you knew in 1996 that there'll be a Facebook in 2006, right? How would you leverage yourself to that? Because you have to agree, like the people who are making a lot of money actually right now on YouTube or whatever, the Casey Neistat, there's a lot of guys who started before, they started video blogging actually, when the camera was, you have to put the mini DV tape inside, and then you close it, and then you videotape, and then when you remove it, to put it in the, it's a whole process, right? So they're the ones who, when YouTube came out or whatever, are benefiting now to the point that YouTube then creates the, what they call the platform called YouTube Creators, So we are looking at, okay, so after the mobile phone, after the YouTube, after Facebook, what is coming next? And so my journey has been in sort of like looking at that, and using 360 video, for example, that's something that's coming next. You're seeing it a lot on Facebook right now, where if you scroll down, you are allowed to take a 360-degree photo, right? YouTube, Google have invested a lot in that, in those kind of spaces as well, where on YouTube as well, you can watch 360 videos. So that's a video where if you look up, you can look at a picture, but you can look up, you can look down, you can look side to side, all through. And so we were thinking to ourselves, okay, so where are we placed in making sure that we're ahead to do that? So I don't know if I'm really touching to your question of that, but our journey has been in trying to investigate the kind of content that will work for us once we get to that space. But you can access it now as well. We've brought some samples. Prince Lee, my co-founder, is there with some of the headsets and stuff, so you can watch some of the things that we're already making here in Tanzania that are kind of pioneering or leveraging technology for storytelling.
Thank you, Tulanana. Osse Sinare.
I think on my part, it's more so just having access to be able to share with, by the click of a button, you can connect with so many different people. Initially, I started my career when I was in Malaysia, so nobody knew about my work at home, but because of social media and Facebook, at the time Instagram had not started trending, so by the time by posting on Facebook and growing it there, by the time I got back home, I already had a following of people who were interested with the work that I was doing. Personally, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have had the same amount of impact in the community, because now you're able to access so many different people. Traditionally, it would have been me capturing an image, sharing it on a newspaper, or the traditional methods of kind of like building your name in a marketplace. But with access to being able to reach so many different people at a short period of time, or just a millisecond, it allows you to have access to so much more and be able to build your brand faster. I think moving forward, it's just allowing now to kind of allow us to create different ways of creating revenue, as is stated, where I want photographers and creatives to start thinking outside the box, where you're not just acquiring money in a traditional sense where a client pays you and you do a photo shoot. You can start selling digital products, you can start selling merchandise online, you can create revenue through YouTube and different platforms, and hopefully start to also actually have platforms that are built here in Tanzania that cater to the problems that we have as Tanzanians or as Africans, rather than using services from other parts of the world.
Yeah, sure.
Can I just add to that in terms of like the future of like platforms and things? Already we're seeing some of those, let's say, English is failing me. Hold on, Google Translate.
You're failing.
I'm blanking a little bit. But there's some of these, let's say, tests, or rather like pilots.
You were
Pilots are being run. Yani, umona. As in, I was like, tests? No, that's not the word. My English teacher would not be proud. Anyway, so we are proud, my team, together. So pilots that are being tested to look at how we can create systems or value chains, that's the word, value chains that connect the audience. Because we are using the mobile phone, right? So there's a telecommunications companies and their subscription services, and as well as like, sort of like the middleman, like who comes in and says, this is valued at this price and this, and the content makers themselves, yes. Right? So in 2014, I did the research around that, asking different people from South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, who are already testing these, creating these platforms, locally made platforms, geared towards their audience or the countries that they're in, because no country is alike. So we have in Tulu in South Africa. In Kenya now there's one called Viusasa. So with that, it connects your mobile phone to your M-Pesa, so you pay for a particular subscription to watch your favorite comedian, who has then subscribed his content to Viusasa. Right? And he knows that because Citizen and Safaricom or whatever have the push, the drive to do advertising via text messages and SMSs, you don't have to start hustling YouTube to get the $1 or the 2 cents that you get per view per se. You know what I mean? You then are able to negotiate in that way. So those are the kind of pilots that are being run right now using the mobile phone. We don't know where that will go, because right now I feel it's still skewed towards, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's still skewed towards making money for the either telecommunications, because they're either charging data way too high, and people cannot access that. But at some point there has to be like a 60-40 or 40-60 slice of the pie, where the content maker feels that, okay, for the work I have put in the photo shoot, in the video shoot, or whatever, by placing my work on your platform, I'm getting something back and I can live off that.
Thank you.
She found the words.
She found the words.
Impressive.
We move on to the next question, which is, how has technology benefited you in telling or selling Tanzanian content to the world? And if so, which platforms have you benefited from mostly, and how have you been using it? And how can other form of arts benefit? Osse, we'll start with you.
Wow, I was hoping you're not starting with me. So at the moment, I've grown my following on Instagram, and I've transitioned onto YouTube. In terms of telling the story, I think with Instagram it's already reached its kind of maturity. Initially it was, in that path of growth, so that's why people were just following each other. You meet somebody and you're following each other without even knowing why you're following this individual. But now it's reached its path where the level of maturity is high, so people are starting to ask themselves, why are they following you? They want to know what type of content you're going to be sharing, and also they want to see a certain sense of humanity in you, rather than showcasing just either wealth or something. They want to see the vulnerability. I think that's where we're at right now. So with Instagram, that's kind of the space whereby I'm able to share a lot of my content, and at the same time, I think through methods of being honest and being real with your audience, they appreciate it more, and they feel like they're going on this journey with you. So it's a good place because then you're able to share a story easily. And then when it comes to long format content, so for example with Instagram it's for engagement, when I want to speak to people, when I want to communicate with people, talk on DMs and comment section. And when I want to send more of valuable content whereby I share information that will improve somebody's life, whether it's in education, whether it's in a location that they do not know about and experience, then we're going to the long format platform, which is YouTube, where it's like you can have a video that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes to an hour, where you can share some more insightful information for them. So those are kind of like the two platforms that I use to share information. And I think at this point in time with YouTube, it's going quite fast because there's also kind of like the revenue catch, where you're able to make revenue. But the catch is it takes you 4,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers to be able to be a creator, to monetize on YouTube. So it's not as simple as you can start a YouTube channel and you start making money. I've done that, and I stayed for 2 years and I'd only made $20, yeah. Unless you have very viral content, and with viral content you have to kind of look at the trending page. It will give you an insight of what the viral content in Tanzania is. It's not really in education material. And I feel like moving forward, we have to be in more of the educative space and also balance out entertainment and education, because that provides more value for the youth. Not more value. I think it provides a balance in value. You want to relax. You also want to acquire information and knowledge. Yeah.
Thank you, Osse. Idris Sultan.
I'll start with language barrier as a first statement, then proceed from there. See, people have a different meaning to the word language itself, because they think it's just what we speak. English, Swahili, these are just not languages. That's why I would say politicians are the worst people to speak to other people sometimes. That's why they would need maybe celebrities to come and speak to the people, because it's definitely a language that they could speak. Sometimes when we're studying language, they call it register. It's something that, what do you speak and where do you speak it? That makes people understand, regardless of the fact that they really understood what you said before, but they did not really want to understand because they did not want to understand what you said. You just didn't say it the way they wanted you to say it. So how do I push my content towards the world? Language barrier. Now that's a section that you really get to start understanding why Tanzanians, most of them, get to really be super local and quite comfortable, because you cannot push your boundaries out to the world. first things first, what are you pushing out there? That's a big mess out there. And what are you trying to push? When I began to speak, I said we don't even know the meaning of infamous and famous, because most people just want to trend, but they don't even know what they're going to be using with that trend. If you're going to be trending by having a lot of lovers in your filthy career, I hope you're really going to have at least a condom as your sponsor, but then it's not really up there, is it? Then you're definitely not making any money out of you having too many lovers, are you? So that's another section that we don't really get to plan most of our careers when we're doing this, and we just don't understand how we're going to speak the language that we want to speak out there. So to answer your question, how do I push my content out there? I am one of the most honest people with what I speak and how I speak, without caring how you might understand it, because your understanding is not my language. I spoke, you understood the way you understood it because of your upbringing. So if I have to understand everybody's upbringing, I might not be able to speak at all. I might just have to keep quiet and hope that you understand that I've said something because your upbringing did not like when I spoke what I spoke. I don't know if your father used to beat you up when you listened to a R. Kelly song, and now if I put an R. Kelly background song on my video, you get to have all these violent memories in your brain. So I sometimes can't understand how I need to push the content out there. And the best thing I get to do is to speak what I want to speak, and you will understand the way you want to understand. And that's pretty much it. I guess, yes.
Thank you. Tulanana.
So I think generally, with the way we've studied the internet and the way we create our content so far for digital media, first we looked at what are the platforms that are quite famous and quite used here in Tanzania. So it's the Facebook and the Instagram. So we're quite heavy on the Instagram, the short form video, whenever we're trying to get our messages out or any of our content out. But as I said before, we deal with emerging media. So the immersive content that we do create has only 2 platforms so far. That's like the Facebook and YouTube. And I think for what they were trying to say, both of them, is that there's an issue here of in being able to create your audience needs the consistency of you creating your content, and then still that's not even a guarantee that you will get the content or audience that you want, because you may be targeting this, but then as you said, it's been interpreted in a different way, so you may get this other people. But the consistency, I think, is really, really key. There's a really good content creator. He's Israeli. He's called Nas Daily. He has 1-minute videos on Facebook every day. And only by his own, I think 600 video or 600 video, was he able to make money via Facebook. So imagine creating a 1-minute video every day, pushing yourself to do that. So when people come out here and say that you're a content creator, the kind of zeal and the need that you have to break through is big. It's big. It's so many hours that you have to spend to be able to create. And he's pushed on forward to create an international market, because if you go onto his page, it's more than 1 million, almost every video has an average of 1 million views, right? But he had to create 600 videos to break that. So for the Tanzanian market, creating content that you think about creating content that will not only be accepted locally, but then to break into that international market, the kind of zeal and attention to detail and consistency that you must have is beyond. But then you have to also be satisfied with the fact that maybe I will not get everybody. And because the way the internet is, the internet is democratic. You have groups that like horses. You have groups that there's an African hair, natural trends that's happening on that side. So as a content creator, we have to think about exactly who our audience are, and then from there work backwards, kind of, to see, to then cater to that need. Otherwise, if we're approaching it from the point of, I'm like a TV, I'll just make my music show, put it out there, na kama utaki kama udani, you know, it doesn't work kind of like that way. We have to look for the niche. What's that audience? Who is that? And then we give it to create the content that will reach those and grow that audience base.
Like we know niche.
See, I had to replace the word pilot with niche, so that guys can, you know, see that I went to school. I went to, you know, to Lipitia kidogo.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Dealing with creatives.
Imagine. It's such a situation. Okay. With advantages comes disadvantages. For example, with technology, most people are exposed to the internet. And according to TCRA, as of last year or the year before, the number was at 40%. Techno had 9 million devices, and we had 82% smartphone penetration. Most people can now access content from other countries. Example, Erica Mondi is famous in Tanzania. So is Diamond all over East Africa regions. How has this affected your brand and your business?
Oh, you're asking me straight.
Yes,
Yeah,
Idris,
okay.
this is for you.
Great. I think it has definitely affected me more positively than negatively.
Okay.
On the negative side, if we begin with that, so that I don't know, the Scottish people have a thing they call it shit sandwich. It's when you say something good, then bad, and then good. So I'll start with good. It has actually done pretty well for me. That's good. Bad now. It has done bad in terms of whatever small thing that you do, regardless of how small it is, if it trends within your local area, it goes up on the borders and then on to the other countries that can definitely accumulate that content. They will have to stay with it until you have to do another thing, which is very massive, to come and beat that one. So it might stay with them for the longest time possible. Like, for example, I liked this girl last year. She is South African, but she went into Google and realized that I sell drugs. I do not know if I had that business in the first place. But then it's the internet that made her acquire that content. But then she's going to stay with that until something way, way bigger than me selling drugs is going to beat that and stay right at the top over there. But if you're in Google in Tanzania right now and you search Idris Sultan, you'll find things which are trending within the area. But if you're in South Africa, you'll find things which trended globally. So if that's what's trending globally, and then it's definitely a scandal, which never happened, or maybe just some tabloids just used to do it, then it definitely affects you, and you don't know how many people believe it. Because I remember when we used to hear news, when we were not famous, we used to believe it very deeply, until we got to be famous, and then we knew now how many lies could be told about a person, and then now you have to think twice before you even understand somebody else's story, before you even hear it again. So I think it really affects you at some extent where you don't even know what people know about you when you see them. So it's never really just positive in terms of if you put your good content out there where everybody can really get it. It could definitely push the negative content, and we know negative content is very interesting. It's super interesting where it really flows to the mouths of the people way more than just the good content. If Idris Sultan right now just goes, or Mimi Maz just goes, or Osse just goes, or Tulanana just goes and maybe gives charity to an orphanage, people will say, oh, congratulations, but then it's just going to end there. But if one of us just walks naked, oh, my friend, trust me, you'll find that in Colombia, and you've never been to Colombia. So that's how it really comes to an extent of a content creator. It sticks, and that's a bad thing because there's a word they say, internet never forgets, and it never does. So you should really be careful what you put out there.
All right. Tulanana, this is for you. Consumers have a very short attention span. As brands are competing for attention, people have two screens. Example, you're watching you're watching a program on TV, and at the same time you're on your phone. How has this affected content creation? Because algorithms help for people with interest in content similar to yours to access it. But the attention span is dwindling. how are you able to stay afloat?
Thank you for that. Before starting OnaStories, actually when we started OnaStories, my background is in journalism and digital media. And I was specifically head of the BBC Swahili desk in charge of making content for social media as well as the website. And this was a question that we would really have to all the time think about, is that how can we make this news about Afghanistan somewhere or whatever interesting, especially if it's in video format, and how do we cut through the noise, basically, as I had mentioned before. And so as storytellers, especially if you were ever a filmmaker or a video maker in any formal way, if you went to school for it, or if you go for any basic knowledge, they tell you you start by, and when you watch this even in movies, you start by the big long shot of there's setting up the scene. So it's like the ocean of Miami Beach, and then we go to the people of Miami Beach, and then we go now to the individual and that. And with the internet, you don't have that time at all. So one thing that has changed is the way we're telling, the format of the way we're telling stories, especially for video. I speak mostly about video because that's where 90% of our content is going, and especially with mobile penetration and the cheapness of data, that's basically where all content is creating traction. So one is a story format, whereas before in a story arc it would be the introduction, the big climax where the bad guy and the good guy meet, and then the coming down to where they resolve everything. We are now realizing that no, you have to start with the bang, boom. So if it's an explosion somewhere, it's like boom, you start the video, boom, with that explosion or that big climax, and then you come to start explaining what happened. So if you even see some of the videos out there, they will put like a thumbnail where, it will be, I don't know, star X versus star X head to head, right? And that's meant to really get your attention. So the way the format of stories is changing. We start with that and come down to the using of a lot of text in our videos, in our content, to be able to grab the attention of people. Remember, people are scrolling. You're fighting for attention. People are scrolling. What will make that person stay and think about playing your video, whether it's by click or by autoplay? But nowadays, there's a lot of autoplay to get you to grab their attention. So the use of text, whether superimpose big, bold text onto the thumbnail of your video or your content, is very important, with a very catchy headline that will get the audience to be able to stick there. And then 3 is the use of we call them same language subtitling. Because you're on your mobile phone, I cannot assume that you are nicely placed in your living room, sitting down, quiet, and able to then watch my content. I have to assume that you're out and about, doing things, listening to a panel, and then getting bored and wanting to watch a video without people knowing that you're watching the video, right? So same language subtitles are important, and that's how now that's changing the way we are approaching. So how we are approaching the way we're making our content, whereas before it would be, as traditional media would go, you would make your video, place there, you're given your time on TV, and that goes. So the mobile phone and the way things are is changing how we're creating that content. Yeah.
Could I add a question onto what she just said?
Yes.
What are your views on clickbait? Because you say a really banging caption.
Right. So ethically, speaking, especially as a journalist, that's something that you're discouraged from doing. One thing why it's important not to do it as well is because at some point you will lose the trust of your audience. It will just be like, man, every time this guy anaweka a picture ya X and X, when I go kumbe it's a commercial for a particular brand of water, I don't know, right? So at some point you will lose the audience that you're trying to build, and you want to have the trust of your audience. As much as there's, as you were saying, a lot of fake news out there, there are outlets or platforms that you're constantly going back to verify, because you believe that they have done the fact checking and they're the people who are giving you true facts, right? True information. So Those are kind of like my views.
I'm
Because at
satisfied.
the end of the, you're satisfied?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you. Osse Sinare, this is for you. Technology advancement has made almost everyone a photographer and made the skills available, thus diluting the skill or effort. How are you able to rise above such and still use the same tech to propel their skills and work?
I think it's through education, educating the client, also showing videos of the process. If you're not showing, for example, generally we have an understanding that a doctor or a lawyer or anybody in a different field that as Tanzanians or an African community we respect and admire, we assume they went through a particular process. But because the accessibility to being a doctor is more difficult, somebody automatically assumes that we already know that we cannot be a doctor, right? But because the access to photography and filmmaking is easier, automatically people do have the connotation that they're able to, be a photographer. I think ultimately you can fight that by educating your clients, educating the community, so showing videos of the process, so you can actually show that what it takes to actually create a good image. And I personally, to be honest, I don't believe in fighting the process. If somebody is satisfied with an image that they shot with their camera, that is a value to them. If somebody values a particular photograph in a particular way, they will, search for a photograph. I think fighting that battle constantly, it hinders you from actually creating and building your business, and you're focused on these people are using their phones. Technology is advancing and is improving. The new iPhone has, 3 different cameras, so you can create a video with the phone itself. So I would rather not fight. I would rather, focus on specializing in my craft and showcasing something that is ultimately very unique, that clients cannot do anything but come to get the service that I provide. Yeah.
Thank you. Question for all of you. What do you think as Tanzanians we can do to harness the power of technology more? Idris, we'll start with you.
What can we do to harness the technology way more? Is it?
Power of technology.
Power of technology.
More. Yeah.
First things first, I would say if people started considering technology to be a business, that's a very good thing. I think that's a good start for us to actually start understanding that the time that we're spending on maybe these platforms that we use, and I would speak at the lowest level, forget maybe technology, let's say artificial intelligence, that's way bigger than I would say speaking to an African. I do even understand artificial intelligence now, that's a whole different topic. Now, just speaking on the platforms that everybody definitely acquires in a very cheap manner, I would say Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, these are the platforms everybody uses. WhatsApp, for instance. And nowadays you have so many people making so much money on WhatsApp, but then how are they making it? Because if you come, let's say, to my social media post, you'll find somebody who says, in order for you to acquire nude pictures, could you send me 500 shillings and then I'll join you into a WhatsApp group, and then you come into that group. But then if you consider it, they make a lot of money because people have nudes. Most of the people, I would say. They do, so they would definitely send that money and then they would join into the WhatsApp group. Then if you consider this person is making 500 shillings for every single person, and the WhatsApp group could have about 200 people. So if you take that and just multiply with the 500 shillings, and they're always joining, according to how I hear, not according to a subscriber, they definitely pay monthly. So after a month, you have to be taken off. Now that's a very negative way of making very positive money. Money is always positive. But, for instance, if we could find a better way to make money through these same platforms, I think that would definitely change the lives of many people. You have 13-year-olds nowadays. Thank you. Why did just one person clap? Oh, you sent him.
I sent him to support. These are my supporters.
Thank you. My team.
Yeah, my team.
So, as I'm saying, people are not really using these platforms quite positively as they really should. I remember once somebody said, I think it was a comedian, I think he said, how many people watch pornography. Nobody raised their hands, and he said, so I guess I'm the one who makes all the 1 million views. So if nobody is really coming forth to say, what are we practicing, and are we even doing things positively out there when we go out there? That's a whole different topic. Now, I go back to that simple, specified thing that I said. These platforms that we're using, there are some people who are making so much money out of very small things. People are selling chicken online. People are selling eggs. People are selling clothes nowadays. You have so many stores on social media, more than you would find outside, which is a very good thing, because you could have your own house with 2 bedrooms, and then 1 bedroom could be used as a store, and you could be doing your orders online. You could be the next Amazon, who knows? But you're selling clothes from your house. Or you could be doing any other thing. These are the same platforms that you're using, because you're gaining, you know, advertisement very cheaply. But then we don't really use it that way. We just have to twist the way we think about things and not just use it for enjoyment. It's a place where you meet so many people. If I and you walk into a bus station right now, we will see people, but we see them in a very different manner. I would see maybe so many people, and you might see, oh, there's a business opportunity because people are standing, so people are getting thirsty, so I could definitely be selling drinks here, but then maybe if I'm selling drinks, I need a license, so I might need to just put a sign here, and somebody who wants a drink, I could direct them to where I am. That's a different perspective that we really need to check. To which I am getting in a bit of a different topic, but then I think the core to all the thought process that we have right now is the type of education system that we have from the get-go. And that's why we think the way we think. And I could talk for days, and I would never get to the end of the whole topic of why people think the way they think. It's not just upbringing, it's the education system, but then I hope we can make things trend educationally, like the way Osse said, and that's not really what trends. You can never make education trend unless you put some very aspect of very interesting things inside there. The only trending education is, you can tell me if I'm wrong. The only class that no one of you ever missed is reproduction. Is it true or not? It's very interesting. That's the only educational part that really trended. But then if we can look for other things to make them interesting, quite practical, I think the same technology that is raising right now could be used for the betterness. And I think that should be done pretty early before it destroys every single person, because we are messing with the same technology right now. The wrong things are trending. We're making the wrong celebrities. We're making everything really bad. There's very 0.12 number of role models right now. I'm sorry for talking too long. Thank you. Thank you again.
Can I say a point to that? Can I say a point?
I wanted to go with Tulanana first,
right,
and
sure.
then we can come to you. Yes. Yeah.
So how can we harness the power of technology as Tanzanians? It's a good point to have about having, using the technology that we do have currently with the mobile phone for business, but I would just talk broadly in like 3 points. One, we need to demystify it first. So a lot of our hesitance in different levels, whether it's business, whether it's education, whatever, and getting this access, is the demystification of the platforms that are emerging. So we, for this technology to be as transformative and educative as you want, it to be the language around it and everything like that needs to be softened, or needs to really be provided from the get-go, from the time a child, if they're already going to have that phone or that iPad or whatever, like we need to, even as the older generation, it needs to be demystified so that they don't feel like it's a threat, right? To their upbringing. And then two, there's the democratization of it as well. If we have specific people only, the ones who are accessing or using this technology, then it becomes like this privilege kind of thing, whereas what we have seen, evidence has shown that the more we open it up, more things come through. So when, for example, if M-Pesa, for example, was only for the few, we wouldn't be here with all these other systems that have come out of it today, right? So we need to be able to do that. And then 3, it's about deployment. I think it just goes back to the main point that if we are not demystifying and making sure that these future generations, ourselves included, are continuously in access with it, then we then begin to formulate our own bad notions that this technology will take away jobs, or it will only bring bad content to the kids, so don't use phones or whatever in school or whatever. But we all know that the next step is e-learning, for instance. So I think through these 3 steps, you're able to harness, you'll be able to harness the technology in different ways, and as Idris said, with its business or e-learning or things like that. But it's a really tough, journey, or a slow but sure journey that we need to be on. But I think the key first is the demystification of these technologies that are coming that are emerging and that we're using today.
Thank you, Tulanana. Osse Sinare?
I think you're going to have to ask the question again.
Okay. The question is, what do you think as Tanzanians we can do to harness the power of technology more? What can we do?
I think ultimately content is king. The more you create,
And queen.
these
people. Feminist.
So ultimately, that is the case. If you want to, either fight, as I said before, it might be an issue. I think it's more important to just keep on creating content. But I do believe in the 1,000 true fan theory, I guess. The reason why I say this is because if you want to fight the system, constantly checking the algorithm, seeing what's trending, what's not, and then you want to create the content according to that, sometimes you might be creating content that your true fans don't really, didn't follow you for that. For example, like if you have a specific group of people who are following Idris for a specific, type of, genre of comedy, and then all of a sudden he shifts because he's following a trend, those people might not want to follow, So he's not fighting the system and trying to keep something that's trending, he's being himself, and by that, the people are following, the content itself. So I think it's important to just kind of focus on the people who are checking your stuff out and try to create more content that is for that group of people who, followed you for that specific reason, so kind of niching it down. So if you are, for example, a vlogger who vlogs about farming, there's nothing in Tanzania. That's such a niche market, and maybe somebody's interested in looking at that type of content. Now you don't have to, try to create content that is going to be viral. You're focusing on a specific niche that a set group of people who are interested in that will follow. And in turn, you'll be able to, create revenue from a group of 1,000 people who will pay you a certain amount rather than having 50,000 people who aren't even interested in converting or being, paying customers. So rather than following the mass, follow a set group of people who are actually interested in what you're doing.
Thank you, Osse. These are my questions, and they're done. I feel that they've explained themselves in ways that all of you have understood. But if anyone has a question, you're more than welcome. Right now, the floor is open.
All right, hands up. Start with the lady here.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Okay, my name is Neema, first of all. And my question, first of all, I thought this question I will pose it to Idris, but I think you can all answer it. With the advancement of technology, digital is also advancing. So it takes us to hyperconnectivity. With hyperconnectivity, it means everything is talking, machines to machines, machines to people, and vice versa. So hyperconnectivity takes us to digital addiction or digital dependency. And with that, we found that many youth are so addicted with the digital world, and they are not living their reality. They are faking whatever they are posting. It's not real. They could just look, today Idris has posted this, so tomorrow they go, they wear like that with the hashtag, I'm living my best life. So with all of this, what is there that should be done so that we can help this generation that's perishing, I can say, or that's most affected with the digital world? How do you detoxify? Okay, fine, whatever.
How detoxify? Hashtag living my best life. All right. You got the question, Idris?
Yes, I did.
Let's get like 3 and then come back to you.
Right.
Another one?
Should I start responding to the first question, yeah?
Go ahead.
What's the lady's name? Was it Nema?
Nema.
Nema, yeah? She asked about how we need to detoxify the whole, I would say it's mostly social media. Your question is mostly raised to social media. How people live a fake life and then they feel the need to proceed with a fake life that they don't really have, which is very toiling to your life, I would really say. It's quite toiling. Here's the thing. I remember somebody was speaking, and I saw them on YouTube, that's his platform. I think it was Simon Sinek, if I'm not really mistaken. He was speaking about the whole social media and how it's really raising the whole dopamine levels and how people really feel the need to be liked. People have this thing that you feel like you need to like me. We have that thing. You post something and you look at it for like 10 minutes and you're refreshing. Nobody is liking it. It's going to be deleted. It's going to be deleted. If somebody likes it, then you need to question yourself, who really liked it? Oh, he's not really a cool person, so he liked it. No, I really need somebody cool to like me. So we have this urge that we feel we need to be accepted. And that's beyond social media. That is insecurity. That is something that has been created so deep inside people. And I don't mean to jinx it, not at all, but back in the days when alcohol never used to say drink with a limit, it was a normal substance. And then you had these type of leaves that you have to smoke them. They were not illegal. And then later, they came to realize these are very addictive and people have to be quite controlled. It's something that really needs to be seen because somebody would stop doing something in their life. People have killed themselves because of social media. People have definitely committed suicide because of somebody just said something bad on social media. It's not about just cybercrime. It's why did you feel the need to kill yourself because somebody you don't know who put a cake on their profile picture said they didn't really like your hair and it was very wet. Now that's a whole different thing. It's very medical, I would say. But then we come back and say something needs to be done with these social media sites, not just us. They need to be able to control how people get to be addicted to these things because people are addicted. It's not just the thing about social media. You walk right now and somebody says something bad about you, instantly you forget about all the other 100 who have said good things about you. So with that part, I would say I blame the social media owners. I blame Mark Zuckerberg. I blame the rest of them, which I don't remember. These people really need to correct the whole social media aspect and help our people. We have so many fragile hearts which can never handle the things that are going to be said on social media. It does not mean you have to stop using it, but it needs to be safe for everybody to use. The world is unsafe, but everybody can walk safely because there are safety causes which are put. So that's one thing that needs to be controlled. Secondly, on how people get to live the fake lives, now that's a very personal thing. I think we need to see you in a very personal level. Why do you feel the need to do something like that? We need to have a lot of consultations. I look at so many movies and you have consultants at schools. I don't think we have consultants. The person who is the closest to consultant is the second mistress. And the last time you saw a second mistress, trust me, you were faster than Usain Bolt. Now that's a whole different aspect. Now we need to have that closure. We need to have these people consulting because the children are the one who are very, I've not seen an adult man who is, I would say 30s or late 20s feeling way too pressurized by the social media. And I would say that's because maybe you were born when social media was just beginning. But then the ones who were born when social media is there, they really need consultancy. We have to look at it at a very extra level because that's where everything is happening. We're saying children are growing up way too fast. No, social media grew them up too fast. We feel the need to love a baby nowadays when we see a little baby is walking and she has makeup on her face and she's, oh, it's so cute. No, she's already 16 and she's 2. That's bad. We have to find a level of control of what they're really doing out there. So the fake and the natural, you need to see if you're killing yourself or you're really growing yourself. Why are you using social media in the first place? Right. Yes.
I think on my part, it's the first part is self-awareness. I think it's very important for people to kind of be self-aware about what they they pursue, what they're focusing on in terms of their goals. Because once you're self-aware, somebody cannot just post something and it can make you feel a certain way. But to be honest, there has been times whereby, like when I was following a lot of different people, where I would look at certain posts, yes, they inspire me, but to a certain extent, they also make me feel a certain type of way. And sometimes you have to be super self-aware to acknowledge that it makes you feel that way, to be able to say that this is something that is maybe negative to you. You wake up in the morning, you take your phone, and you see it. It affects what you're going to be doing for the day. So I think being self-aware is very important, but I think also as people who you acquire a certain amount of following, you also have a responsibility to be able to communicate to your audience, to show them that there's a balance of, yes, I'm traveling and I'm going to different locations, and that might be, exciting and it might make you feel bad, but listen, 80% of the time this is what's really happening in the back end, to balance out what might be enticing and to balance out what's really the reality, where I'm sitting at home just, bored, and I'm also maybe depressed, not excited about life, things are not going the right way. So you have to balance it out so the audience can see that, because in real life we have those kind of balances where you see somebody having a good day and somebody having a bad day. In social media you only see the good part, and the good part is probably half a second of your life in comparison to the struggles that you have to go through to actually achieve something. So I think it's about balance as a creator, and also about communicating to your audience that they should be self-aware about what is really being shared on the platform. Yeah.
And the distributor question, I think the distributors nowadays are very poor, because we have the social medias and we have all these other platforms that we have to put our work, like Netflix, we have YouTube, we have all these things. So it's very rare that we have to even distribute a CD for somebody to start making money. The only thing that is, we have to renegotiate our contracts to how much we make the money. And that's another whole different aspect. I think it's quite personal. Some people would negotiate bad, or some people negotiate good, but then I think we also need to educate our celebrities, because I would say, I don't know, I shouldn't be quoted, but maybe I think 80% of the celebrities out there are very uneducated, and they don't really have anybody to consult them of how they're going to get their contracts out there. You don't even know the value of your work. You just want to make ends meet, and that's troublesome, I would say. I hope I answered your question.
I think just to wrap up that on two fronts. I'll start with with your question about the artists and getting conned or whatever. One of the things that we still lacking or have a gap in is to be able to have a set policies in place that understand the technology that is out there, first of all, understand the dynamics of that technology, and then be able to set the policies that are able to protect artists and content makers, and are able to guide them through the emerging technologies that are coming out. So if I don't understand the platforms that are out there, if I don't understand how Facebook works as a policymaker, if I don't understand how YouTube works as a policymaker, then it's very hard for me to come and start dictating. It becomes very difficult for me to come dictating the policies that should be guiding you as a content maker. And then at the end of the day, also it becomes hard for me to protect you as a content maker from those unscrupulous people that are coming in to steal from you and steal from the content that you're making. So as I said before, there's a huge gap in trying to demystify these technologies that are coming out, that are already here, but they're also that are coming out, right? Because we just have a lack of understanding on how these platforms work in the first place, right? And then two, in regards to digital dependency, living for the gram, yes, one of the effects that have been out there is that we didn't really foresee, the world did not foresee, is the uprising, the anxiety, depression, all of these things. But I always say the power is in your hands. You literally have the power to, you know, either follow or unfollow somebody. And if you're self-aware, as you said, then you have that power to say, like, no, this person is making me feel a certain kind of way. They're living a good life, yes, but I need to, like, stop, right? But then at the same time, just to address what you said as well, we need to really acknowledge that there is an issue with online behavior, and we have to admit that online behavior mimics the offline behavior that we have, right? Cyberbullying is real. People do kill themselves and hurt others. And in our context, a lot of it has been targeted towards women. And I'm in part of a lot of groups, Women at Web, Tanzania, a lot, who are trying to tackle and educate women on how to use and how to protect themselves, how to know these platforms, how to know the ways to protect themselves using these platforms. Because a lot of us were introduced by a friend. Hi, oh, Facebook, yeah, you know, like that. But we don't know how to block, how to use the privacy settings and things like that. Building our online personas to be able to protect yourselves. How is your Facebook different from your Twitter, different from your Instagram, right? And who has access to you? You know, so as content makers, as you said, you have that responsibility to be able to say, hey, my life is not always this glamorous, but even you as a consumer as well, because we're all content makers, as we said here, you know, every picture you post, every video you post, you have to then have the responsibility to say, you know what, the power is in my hands to either unfollow, take a break, or things like that, or something to that nature. Yeah.
Thank you to the panelists. You guys have, I know it was a bit tough when we're backstage. They were all like, what are the questions? But you guys have really answered them well, and I think everyone who has attended has understood or gotten something from it, especially on how they benefit and how they create and the challenges and etc. I personally have learned things as well as you guys kept on answering, so it's great. And thank you for the questions and everybody else who came through and listened. I guess, yeah.
Round of applause, please, for our panelists as they make their way back down to the floor. Thank you so much, Bibi Mars, for moderating it. And without further ado, please, Jumanne, the CEO of Sahara Ventures. We are almost